3 years ago, Hell Let Loose released this absolutely incredible trailer. It's gritty, dramatic, and even has some fan favorite references to Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan, and Fury, and as of recording this video, has managed to get over 2 million views, which is amazing for a small indie studio and a small niche game. 3 years later, however, the game is suffering from 2 back-to-back game-breaking updates, is being review bombed on Steam, and just released a contender for one of the worst trailers in gaming history. Not only does this whole thing just look like some mobile game, the voiceovers are horrible and even sound like they were recorded in a bathroom. And is that an ammo clip sticking halfway out of the M1 Garand while they're firing it? This is an abomination, and there's nowhere for Hell Let Loose to hide since this trailer was shown live to hundreds of thousands of people during the PC Gaming Show 2023. Unfortunately, for a game that has done so well for so many years, many are now seeing this trailer as an accurate representation of the devs behind Hell Let Loose instead of a one-off marketing mix-up. So what happened to Hell Let Loose, and is there any hope for this once loved historical shooter? Well, over the past few years, Hell Let Loose has grown into the go-to game for players looking for a hardcore team-based World War II experience. And for years, the community has enjoyed the updates to the game, all thanks to the developers over at Black Matter Studios. After raising nearly $250,000 on their Kickstarter in 2017, then releasing the game into early access on Steam in 2019, and even porting the game out to consoles in 2021, Black Matter has meticulously taken care of the Hell Let Loose IP, ensuring that this gritty experience lives up to their original promises no matter which platform you play it on. This was all published under Team17, who are responsible for many things including promotion and distribution of Hell Let Loose, while Black Matter was still in charge of the actual development and vision of the game, an extremely common partnership in the gaming industry. Things like dismemberment, the cinematic and realistic tank fights, large-scale squad command, and the infantry combat, pretty much everything you've probably seen about this game or experienced for yourself was all thanks to the dev team over at Black Matter. They might not have gotten everything right all of the time, but over the years, the good would definitely outshine the bad, and by 2020 with the release of Karantan, Hell Let Loose looked to have finally beat out Postscriptum for popularity in the hardcore World War II tactical shooter space. However, all of the community's goodwill would change last year when Team17 purchased and acquired the actual intellectual property rights of Hell Let Loose. For Black Matter as a studio, this must have been a dream come true. You grow a game from Kickstarter, get it to full launch, and then end up selling the IP 4 years later for a cool £46 million profit. The players, however, were not nearly as excited. Although Team17 has been a great publisher, their recent game development history is spotty at best, with the only real notable titles being Overcooked 2 in 2018, and most everything else they've made has been, well, let's just say Worms, and Flockers aren't really in the same category as a game like Hell Let Loose. I'll be the first one to stand up and back the Worms franchise since Worms Armageddon was my go-to game growing up, but it's no secret that coding and development for a hardcore tactical shooter is far, far different from what the studio has been responsible for in the past. Now, although there were definitely concerns in the community about the direction the game would go under the guidance of Team17, many were happy to wait and see, and why wouldn't they? Team17 had been a valuable team member of Hell Let Loose since the initial early access release of the game, so there really shouldn't be anything to worry about, right? Well, introduce update 13.5 in April 2023. Everything up until then was pretty much leftover work from Black Matter that was handed over to Team17, and update 13.5 would be the first real Team17 owned update since the acquisition, and would hopefully quell the community's concerns. Unfortunately, this did just about the opposite. Bolt-action rifles now had these crazy reload bugs causing them to perform double animations. Hit registration was all over the place, server desync and rubber banding was at an all-time high, and some maps had dead zones which would tank FPS to single digits. This was supposed to be a simple, nice quality of life update, but for many, the game was at the very least unchanged, and at the very worst, borderline unplayable and frustrating. The devs would respond a couple weeks later stating that fixes would be implemented during update 14, which would also bring the long-awaited British faction to the game. Not only this, we'd also get a brand new theater. North Africa was being introduced with the map El Alamein. Yeah, some animations might be broken right now, but look at everything that we have coming up. Surely this will be amazing. Once again, the community was split, and the first update might have been a miss, but ultimately you can't go wrong with all the content a completely new faction would bring, right? Well, Wrong again. To kick it off, the famous Bren light machine gun can actually not be bipoded. The standard issue rifle for the British in-game is now the old pattern 1914 model, a World War I relic, instead of the more modern, faster-firing Lee Enfield No. 4. Kits would more often use the Lanchester SMG, which was primarily a naval weapon, instead of the Sten. There was no inclusion of desert uniforms for the factions despite releasing the first North African map. Performance across the board was still an issue with massive rubber banding, desync, and low FPS, especially on the new map. Player speed was increased so much that they could actually outrun tanks, and the new dolphin dive mechanic was letting players slip and slide all over the maps. As much as people wanted to enjoy the 2 new maps and a new faction, there was just a lot of glaring issues. Now, to Team 17's credit, once again, they soon responded that they were looking into the issues and would be releasing a patch in late June to address all these concerns. At this point, the player base was frustrated, and understandably so. The British just hadn't lived up to the hype, and although desync, rubber banding, and reload bugs were also annoying, the real concerning change was the sprint speed increase, which many people interpreted as Team 17 trying to make the game less hardcore and more arcadey in order to attract the lower attention span Call of Duty crowd. Still, on the other hand, Hell Let Loose was moving forward. We got the British, there were 2 new maps, a bunch of new vehicles and weapons, and there was still plenty on the roadmap for 2023. There's a patch coming out in a couple weeks and things would be fixed in due time, right? Well, at least that was the general thought until the dumpster fire that was the PC gaming show trailer. Now, this trailer has already been torn apart all over the internet, so I'm just going to do a simple recap. First, the graphics look like a mobile game and nothing in comparison to past Hell Let Loose update trailers. Second, the voice acting for the entire trailer was just all over the place. The voiceover we first hear for Eisenhower's D-Day speech actually sounds like it was read by an AI.
Good luck, and let us all beseech the blessing of Almighty God upon this great and noble undertaking.
Then, the voiceover for the German squad leader actually sounds like it was recorded in a metal trash can. And finally, there was this thing.
Keep moving! We've taken a German opening!
The general atmosphere of the entire trailer and the terrain they were actually fighting on looks like something straight out of Gary's mod. The weapons aren't actually animated properly and fire halfway down the rifle. There's a set of floating arms just hanging around, and then there's this sequence where the soldier is firing his M1 Garand with the clip sticking straight out of the rifle. Like, how does this, out of everything we've seen already, get approved? But what makes this even funnier is that this trailer is actually like a Where's Waldo of horrible quality control, and every time you rewatch it, you just find more issues. Like this soldier T-posing while another crouches during a grenade blast, or the fact that this running sequence actually looks to have been animated by just using arms and a rifle as indicated by the shadow out in front. Honestly, it's all just quite shocking, and we're not even discussing the historical inaccuracies of things like the red parachutes for the paratroopers, which were typically restricted to things like supplies or explosive cargo equipment drops. And this user on the subreddit even analyzed the paradrop sequence to show that Team 17's representation of the drop is physically impossible. In order to get this sequence, one of the planes would have had to have been flying the complete opposite direction of them, or would have had to have the paratroopers jump out of the plane's cockpit. This even gets worse when you compare the C-17 sequence to an older postscriptum trailer, which was released way back in 2018. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Did I say that was way worse? No, what's actually way worse is that this update will actually not include parachuting. The community manager took the Hell Let Loose Discord to confirm that there will be no parachuting in-game, as it, quote-unquote, isn't currently possible with the in-game engine. If it's not possible, then I guess this paradrop from postscriptum, which also uses the same Unreal 4 engine that Hell Let Loose uses, was just some sneaky clickbait editing by KarmaCut then, right? This is now strike 3 for Team 17, and the players are absolutely destroying the devs on the subreddit while now review bombing the game on Steam. They argue that the developers have now shown over the course of 3 months that they are ill-equipped to be responsible for such a well-established and complicated game. And although Hell Let Loose isn't technically suffering from a player base exodus just yet that would cause it to die, staying the course they are currently on will definitely make it a worse game moving forward, ultimately bringing an end to the game that the players have loved for years. And this honestly isn't that far-fetched of an opinion, since my assumption after watching this trailer was, okay, first my assumption was, what the hell is going on behind the scenes to cause this trailer to be so bad? But secondly, I was under the impression that with update 15, there would be some sort of D-Day paratrooper map. I mean, the map shows paratroopers and what looks like an assault on emplaced German anti-tank and artillery weapons. The houses look like Breakcore Manor, and it's all just very standard Normandy stuff, but no. This trailer was actually supposed to showcase a brand new, smaller, quicker paced game mode called Objective, which would actually reduce the player count to 25 players on each side, down from the 50 versus 50 we have now, and the Americans would try and plant explosives on the guns while the Germans defended, essentially a search and destroy game mode. The issue here is twofold. One, that trailer was not only comically bad, but it didn't get the point across at all and borderline lied to us with the paratroopers. But two, this new game mode cannot actually be included in the regular servers that the community currently pays for. Games of Hell Let Loose are 100 players, 50 on each side, and if you want to play the game, you have to actually join a server which someone actually paid for, which could cost anywhere from $50 to $150 a month. If you want to play the new game mode Objective, you would now have to purchase an additional server with a 50-player cap, since it wouldn't be possible, or I guess fair, for half the player base to just get disconnected when you swap to the next map. You can't just go from a 100-player Omaha Beach offensive and then Thanos snap to play Objective. So I would bet that this new game mode will actually be fairly unpopular, as server providers will have to spend more money just to play it. And as someone who owns a Hell Let Loose server and 4 squad servers, server management is a pain, and keeping those servers populated day in and day out to justify the cost can be a huge hassle. This all just seems to be another example of Team17 not understanding the game that they purchased, and the players are just really fed up. The roadmap for the rest of the year once had a bunch of people excited, but if we just got the British, who are now looking to be the worst faction in the game, and the July update was supposed to bring us the 101st Airborne, but we now know that we can't even use parachutes, why should we be excited about the Finnish or Polish forces? And things like adding the skirmish game mode later this year just reinforces the fact that they're trying to market Hell Let Loose away from the current player base and instead attract players who want faster paced, less tactical games. Oh, and yeah, I don't think anyone missed the nice in-game store update included either. You gotta fit in more ways to monetize, right? Hell Let Loose isn't dying. Yes, and to be fair, there's no real indication right now that the players are going to get so fed up that they stop playing, since the only real other alternative right now is Postscriptum, a $30 game which fired its entire dev team last year. Although people are talking about it in the subreddit, unfortunately it looks like Team17 has almost got the player base stuck in a position where they can either continue playing a product that they just don't like, or not play a tactical World War II shooter at all. And history shows us that more often than not, players will simply put up with bad games until they are given a similar alternative. And whether people want to hear it or not, Postscriptum is probably not that alternative. But if things continue along at this current pace, 2023 might see Hell Let Loose implode right before our very eyes. Well, what do you guys think? Has Hell Let Loose shot itself in the foot and ruined a perfectly good game? Do you think Team17 is capable of righting the ship? Or maybe you actually don't care at all and are still just having fun playing? Let me know in the comments below, and if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. But that's it for me. Until next time, peace.